The doctor's hands were shaking. She wasn't looking at the ultrasound screen, where my baby's heartbeat flickered in black and white. She was staring at my file, at my husband's name printed neatly at the top. Then, without a word, she turned off the monitor, just switched it off, mid-exam, as though someone had pulled the plug on my life. "Mrs. Mercer," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I need to speak with you privately, right now." She led me to her office, closed the door, locked it. My mind raced to the worst, something wrong with the baby, some terrible news, but when she spoke, her words didn't break my world, they detonated it. "You need to leave your husband today, before you go home. Get a divorce lawyer first." I laughed, actually laughed. "What? Why? We're having a baby, we're happy." "That's exactly the problem." Her face was pale. "What I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know." She took a breath, steadying herself. "But let me start from the beginning. You need to understand how I ended up in that office. 4 months pregnant. Learning my entire life was built on lies told by the man sleeping next to me every night. My name is Daphne Wilson. I'm 32, a marketing director in Connecticut, and I come from what people politely call old money. When my grandmother passed, she left me her estate, a trust, and the historic Wilson family home. I never flaunted it. To me, it was security, not identity, but it made me a target. I just didn't know it yet. I met Grant Mercer 4 years ago at my family's charity gala. Tall, dark hair, easy smile. He didn't ask about money, he asked about books. He seemed genuine. My mother saw through him immediately. "That man's smile doesn't reach his eyes," she warned. I called her paranoid. We stopped speaking for 2 years. Spoiler alert, Mom was right. After we married, we tried for a baby. The diagnosis was severe male factor infertility. Grant was devastated, or so I thought. We turned to IVF. He insisted on choosing the clinic, handling the paperwork. I thought he was being supportive. The second cycle worked. I was pregnant. He held me, talked about nursery colors, our future. Then, casually, he mentioned I should update my will, now that we're a family, he said. I thought it was sweet, practical. I had no idea he was already counting my grandmother's money as his own. 4 months pregnant, and small cracks became chasms. Grant's phone was always face down. Late nights multiplied. Unexplained receipts appeared. When I asked, he blamed my hormones. "Don't turn into one of those wives," he'd say, and I'd apologize. That's how good he was. The financial pressure grew. He wanted access to the trust, to sell the house. When I refused, he turned cold, silent. He slept on the far edge of the bed. One night, I overheard him on the phone at 2 a.m. "It's almost time," he whispered. "By spring, everything will be settled." He hung up when he saw me. "Work emergency," he said. My best friend Tara saw what I wouldn't. "Daph," she said gently, "when's the last time Grant was genuinely happy to see you?" I couldn't answer. Then came the ultrasound. My usual doctor was away. The new one, Dr. Claire Brennan, opened my file and froze. Her hands trembled. She turned off the monitor. In her locked office, she laid it out. Her sister, Molly, worked as a nurse at our fertility clinic. 3 weeks earlier, Molly had confessed through sobs. Grant had paid her $30,000. He'd paid an embryologist, too. They switched the sperm samples. My baby was not biologically his. But it wasn't just betrayal, it was a trap. Phase 1. Switch the samples. Phase 2. Play the devoted father-to-be. Phase 3. Alter clinic records after the birth to show the IVF failed, making it seem we conceived naturally. Phase 4. Suggest a sentimental DNA test. Phase 5. Reveal the proof I'd cheated. Our prenup had an infidelity clause. He'd walk away with at least $500,000, my reputation, and likely more in a lawsuit. He was drowning in gambling debts, $180,000, embezzled from his clients. I was his life raft. Dr. Brennan had proof, records, emails, payment trails, even the donor's name, a grad student paid $15,000, who had no idea he was part of a fraud. I sat there, the papers burning in my vision, shock first, then a cold, sharp clarity. He thought I was weak, an easy mark. He had no idea who he'd married. He doesn't know? I asked, my voice eerily calm. No. Good. I made copies of everything. Then I drove home, face neutral, hands steady. Grant was in the kitchen, smiling that empty smile. How was the appointment? He asked. Perfect, I said, smiling back. Everything's perfect. I hugged him. I showed him the ultrasound photo. I laughed at his joke. I apologized for being paranoid, blamed the hormones. His own words given back to him. He relaxed completely. He thought he was still winning. That night, he slept soundly. I lay awake until 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, planning his destruction. The next morning, I called in sick. Then I drove 2 hours to another city, checking my mirrors, and walked into the office of Rosalind Weaver, private investigator, ex-detective, all sharp edges and seen it all eyes. I told her everything. She listened without interruption. When I finished, she smiled, a slow, predator's smile. Well, Mrs. Mercer, she said, let's go hunting. The private investigator finished her coffee, a predator's smile touching her lips. Arrogant men always make mistakes. Give me 2 weeks. She had everything in 10 days. The debts, $180,000, a tangle of online bets, underground poker, and private lenders who collected with methods the Better Business Bureau wouldn't recognize. The embezzlement, $53,000, siphoned from client accounts in quiet, digital drips over 18 months. His firm was still oblivious. The affair, 8 months with his assistant, hotel receipts, dinner bills, getaway photos. The sheer, unoriginal banality of it was its own insult. If you're going to torch your marriage, at least have the decency to be interesting about it. And the pattern, 5 years ago, a woman in Boston named Caroline Ashford, a joint account, suspicious withdrawals, a quiet, ashamed retreat. Rosalind found her. Caroline was no longer ashamed. I met Molly Brennan in a nowhere coffee shop. She looked ghostly, guilt having hollowed her out. I'm so sorry, she whispered, tears already falling. The money, he was so convincing. I cut through the remorse. Are you willing to testify, officially? Yes, no hesitation. I'll tell them everything. I studied her. She was a tool he'd used, finding a crack of debt and pressing hard. The architect was Grant. She was just a conduit. Don't be scared anymore, I said. You're not the villain here. He is. The embryologist, sensing the tide, developed a swift and self-serving conscience. He'd say anything to avoid prison. Then, the hardest call. 2 years of silence. 2 years of choosing a liar over the woman who raised me. The phone barely rang before she answered. Daphne. Her voice was a held breath. Mom. The word fractured. You were right. About everything. I'm so sorry. I braced for the wounding truth I deserved. For the I told you so etched in 2 years of hurt. Instead, she asked, what do you need, sweetheart? Just that. No gloating. No ledger of my mistakes. Just an open door. That mercy shattered me more completely than any cruelty could have. My mother, a retired estate attorney, moved with serene efficiency. Within 48 hours, I was sitting across from Sandra Kowalski, a grandmotherly shark in a cardigan. She reviewed the mountain of evidence, her reading glasses perched low on her nose. Your husband is looking at fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement, she said, her voice mild. His planned alteration of medical records is felony intent. The prenup's infidelity clause is now your shield, not his weapon. She coordinated with a prosecutor. Molly gave her sworn statement. The firm was alerted, and Grant's access evaporated. A judge issued a warrant. I held the paper, 8.5 by 11 inches of poetic justice. 6 weeks later, I suggested a baby moon garden party at the estate. Grant's eyes glittered with performative delight. More witnesses for his grand finale. Let me handle everything, I said, patting his chest. You just enjoy the day. He had no idea that everything included officers in the guest house, my lawyer by the bar, and his entire world, meticulously arranged to collapse on cue. The day dawned bright. The gardens were a riot of color my grandmother had planted for joy, not for theater. 50 guests mingled. Grant worked the crowd, his hand perpetually finding my belly for photos, his laugh perfectly calibrated. His mother wept with pride. Such a good boy, she told the air. My mother watched from near the desserts, a faint, knowing smile on her lips. Almost time. Right on schedule. At 3 p.m., Grant made his move. Everyone, he called, drawing me close. I've had the sweetest idea. Let's do a DNA test today, right now. We can frame the results for the nursery. Proof of our bond. The crowd murmured approval. He beamed, the picture of sentimental devotion. I let the silence hang for a beat. You're right, Grant. Today should be about truth. I walked to the speaker's platform and picked up the microphone. His smile held, but his eyes flickered. 3 months ago, I began, my voice carrying on the spring air. I learned what my marriage really was. I pulled the folder from beneath the podium. A construction, a con. I held up the clinic records. These show my husband bribed staff to switch sperm samples. He paid a donor. He planned to alter these records after the birth, demand a DNA test, and use the result to claim I'd cheated. I looked directly at him. Our prenup's infidelity clause would have handed him $500,000. It was always about the money. Grant paled. Daphne, this is madness, the hormones. I'm not finished. My voice turned to ice. The $50,000 for the bribes was embezzled from his clients. I nodded to his boss, standing stone-faced at the bar. He has $180,000 in gambling debts. And for 8 months, I said, displaying the photos, he's been having an affair with his assistant. Gasps cut the air. A glass shattered. This wasn't his first attempt, I added. There's a woman in Boston who can attest to that. Lies, Grant choked out, scrambling. She's unstable, pregnant and... Grant, his mother's voice, thin and sharp, stopped him cold. Is any of this true? He turned to her, mouth working, but no sound emerged. Molly stepped forward, pale but resolute. I'm the nurse. It's all true. Derek Sykes, the donor, spoke next. He paid me $15,000. I didn't know. Then, the officers emerged from the guest house, walking calmly across the lawn. The recited rites were a sterile counterpoint to the garden's beauty. The handcuffs clicked shut around Grant's wrists in front of everyone he'd ever wanted to impress. As they led him away, he made one last, desperate play. Daphne, please, I love you. Think of our family. I met his terrified eyes, the charming facade finally stripped completely away. We just did, Grant, I said quietly. The police car crunched down the gravel drive, past the iron gates he'd coveted. The stunned silence was broken by my mother's arm slipping around my shoulders. Your grandmother, she whispered, would be proud. And for the first time in months, my lungs filled completely with air. The aftermath was swift. Bail denied. His firm pressed charges. The assistant vanished. Caroline Ashford from Boston came forward, her statement a final brick in the wall. The divorce was a formality. The criminal case was a rout. Molly testified. The embryologist bargained. The paper trail was undeniable. Grant Mercer would spend years in prison. When he got out, he'd own nothing but his record. My daughter was born 4 months later, perfect and beloved. Some asked about the donor, about biology. But family isn't a blood test. It's the choice to show up. My mother chose me when I least deserved it. I choose my daughter, every day. At lunch one day, I finally asked my mother why she never said I told you so. She sipped her tea, a slow smile spreading. Watching you hand him the rope was infinitely more satisfying. I laughed, the sound bright and real in the sunlit room. Now, in my grandmother's kitchen, my kitchen, I make her chamomile recipe as morning light washes over the gardens she planted. My phone lights up with a text from my mother. Lunch tomorrow? I smile and type back, always. My hand rests on my sleeping daughter's back. Grant tried to take everything, my money, my future, my peace. All he succeeded in doing was showing me my own strength. Some people wait a lifetime for karma. I got to serve mine at a garden party, with 50 guests and impeccable documentation. My grandmother always said Wilson women don't break. We bend, we adapt, and when someone tries to burn us down, we rise from the ashes and build something better. He thought he'd married a Mark. He married a Wilson, and now he has nothing but time to ponder the difference.